Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. Welcome to the Grey Market Blast. It is Thursday, the 4th of September, all day. You join myself and the amazing, gloriously gorgeous, with a capital G, goddess of grain, Angie Setzer, where Angie will be providing us with a
It's a
latest update on
little
the latest.
early to be that drunk, I'm just saying.
Well, to be honest, I have just ordered a cider because we've had a strategy day for PIQ today.
Ooh,
So
I like
anyway,
it.
enough about me. Andy will be providing us with the latest pricing flows and
Oh,
market
I'll shut up.
movements in agricultural markets before we get underway or get the legals out of the way. Nothing discussed in this latest session constitute trade or investment advice, yada, yada, yada. Nothing infers any kind of endorsement, yada, 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 by myself, PIQ, and of course, Angie. Angie, how are you, my love?
That is me. I am super.
Thanks
Welcome.
for asking.
Hi. Yes, it's Thursday. Feels like Wednesday. I don't know why. Maybe because
No,
we
it
didn't do
does. It really
Monday.
does.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. It's okay. We only have 2 more days this week. And over here though, like across the pond, as they say, we're supposed to be very chilly, like 65 degrees for a high in, freedom Fahrenheit. And down to like 40 degrees at night. And so I'm just not there mentally, to be honest. So please pray for me a little bit. I'm kind of still a summer girly and fall is just forcing itself upon me. I'm not enjoying it. But other than that, I am great. Bullet point wise today, I don't really know. Like we've reached this time of year and I tweeted this yesterday. I absolutely love, this time of year because of the excitement, like harvest is coming, like we're getting ready to plan again. Like some of the folks that I haven't heard from in a hot minute, I'm talking to and just really, I love my job. Like, so I love that part, but I also hate this time of year because of the reasons that I've been talking about all week. Like, what are we trading on? Nothing. The same stuff over and over and over again. We're waiting for harvest to get here. We're obviously worried about a lack of China demand. And so that's why bullet point number 1 is no news isn't necessarily good news in the sense that we have had no trade updates really to speak of, from last week's meeting between the US and China. No one said anything about anything in that regard. And really all that we've seen since are signs that China's like, yeah, F them. I'm not going to do anything with them. This is a fight they started. This is a fight I'm going to finish, which, obviously that's a bit dramatic, but that's how it feels right now. In the sense that, there's still nothing in the way of Chinese purchases on the books for soybeans. It's September 4th. Everyone's, freaking out about it. I don't think we have to. I'm kind of feel like that police guy, everyone remain calm while everyone's losing their minds. I think there's a lot of steps in this process, but right now, the most glaringly obvious thing is that China's not buying from the US for their normal shipping period, September, October, November, no sales on the books. They're continuing to buy out of Brazil, though as I have mentioned, I feel like this is more of an optional origin exercise in the end than anything else, but they are still continuing to buy out of Brazil. Now they're sourcing new crop beans out of Argentina to help stock their reserves, which is also, one of the things I've said is, okay, well, crushers don't have to buy in the short term, but they still have to stock those reserves. Well, now they're buying them from Argentina. And so they're really sending a direct message. Now, back to the chip thing. I still believe that a lot of this is, political posturing, is, a negotiation tactic to really be able to access this NVIDIA chip that is, what is it, what is the new one? I just gotta go back to Zach's thing because I'm learning. The B30A, or do I have to say 30A, Ryan? How am I supposed to say this? You need to help me. But anyway, they've got a new chip, NVIDIA does, that they're throwing out. It's likely to cost more than that H2O. And, really kind of one of those things that it's supposed to be up to 6 times more powerful than that H2O chip. And really when it comes down to it, the Chinese tech firms that have been instructed to avoid the US chips, are now saying, we want these
Right. So
chips.
this is it, right? So as we've been saying this for weeks now.
Yes.
Obviously, me and you are ahead of the curve as usual. We
I'm
said this is,
always early.
yeah, it's not, I'm right. I'm just very, very early. But we said ages ago that it's going to get to the point where by the time this is all settled, China have already got their own chip industry up and running. They don't give a shit about the Nvidia things anyway. This
Right.
feels
Yeah.
like
Like it's
this feels like a
all,
lot of Feels like a lot of wasted breath at the moment.
I think they're going to posture to get the B30A. You know what I mean? Like, I think that that's what you're going to see. We've talked about this in the videos, so we're going to introduce this. You know, they need the revenue, but we also need to, legally make the whole 15% revenue thing happen too with the US. Like, it's just one of those deals that I just, it'll be fun. It's fun to watch, I guess is the wrong term. It's interesting to watch
We are
because I'm
very
not
different
having
people.
fun. Yeah, I am not like straight up not having a good time over here with a lot of this. But I'm also at the same time really intrigued by all of it because it really is
Yes. Yeah.
it's a multi-dimensional chess
Oh.
game of so many moving pieces, so much, in the way of butterfly effect, yada, yada, yada. But in the meantime, it is negative. Sentiment continues to be negative. The idea is that we have huge crops and we have, limited demand, when in reality, the huge crops are still not recognized or realized. We have to see where that goes. That's bullet point number 2. And B, when it comes to the overall setup and demand, the only piece of demand that is currently lacking in this whole entire market structure is that Chinese buying. Yes, it's important. You know what I mean? We need them to come in and purchase at least 15 million metric ton if no one else increases their soybean purchases from the export side of things in order to meet the USDA's numbers. Like, they have to buy some bushels. But, and I think they will. Like, I think the most intriguing part about all of this is that Brazil really is going to be running on fumes. Their crushers still need to source 350, 400 million bushels
Right.
of soybeans between now and harvest. And if they export what they're expected to export, they're not going to have beans. Like, it's just one of those things that, it'll be fun to really kind of fun. I keep using that word. I don't think I know what it means. But
Yeah, right.
you know what I mean? Like, it'll be,
yeah, okay.
I have to use it my own, but that's, it'll be interesting to watch because it is unprecedented. But you have to remember the market's job is to take things that are unprecedented and turn them into new style of grain flows, like great cash grain oozes, all of these things. And so when we get to the end of this, it'll be a master's class in, how to handle physical movement in a time that you don't normally, just as the market structure changes in general. So anyway.
Yes.
Bullet point numero dos, which is number 2 for those of you who don't habla español. And you say you don't learn anything on this chat.
There you go, exactly.
Right? Pick your fighter, agronomists versus analysts. I'd like you guys just choose who you're going to, listen to, because we had another group yesterday, Allendale, not picking on them. Everyone is free to come up with their own, yield assessment and all of that. We fought a war for it way back when, like number 1 thing is freedom of speech. So you have at it. If you want to say 195, that is your place of power. But we did have Allendale come out yesterday and say their survey was 187. I think they bumped that number up, from August. I think the soybean number, I didn't even look at the soybean number. Oopsie doopsie. I'm sure it was solid. And so there's just kind of this back and forth of what is actually happening on the ground. There is talk that, we've got more in the way of, harvest pressure that's going to be starting across parts of Iowa. Harvest is beginning. Carl, the other Setzer, my, partner in crime and life and business, he managed risk and handled elevators in Iowa for 20 some years.
He's not
basically,
old enough. There is no way
he is.
Carl is that old.
Oh, he is that
Make
old.
sure you
I
tell
can
him I've
assure
said
you.
that.
I will. But he said that the earliest harvest that he can remember, it happened shortly after Labor Day in 2012. You have farmers out there that are saying they're going to be starting harvest here in the next week or two. And so it's just going to be one of those things where will the carpet match the curtains? Does it still look as good when we get there? I'm sorry, I'm going to use it again. But it's true. Like, is it as good looking as what all these folks are saying? Are we as optimistic, or are we overly optimistic? Are we under optimistic? I'm over here kind of the belief that we end up with yields similar to what we saw a year ago. Obviously, if that were the case in corn, it would be a very drastic change in carry out, because I am not of the opinion that demand really has to be reduced outside of the residual, which is influenced by production. We've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. We talked about that before. Last point here, is what next? And I have no idea. Congratulations. I don't know.
But honesty is the best policy. We're not,
right? Yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm just being honest. Like we're range bound, and we're going to continue to be range bound until we have a better idea of what is going on with China. What are we going to see with these tariffs? That's all kind of been upended. Do we go to the Supreme Court? Do we go to the appeals court? Do they get thrown out? Do they not? The administration is saying it's screwing up their negotiations. I would imagine most countries are operating as though the tariffs remain in place. And if they don't, then whatever, it was funny to me to see him say, well, we'll have to unwind all of these trade deals. Girl, we got 2 official deals. There's not even one of those is in writing. Like one is in writing, right? The UK one. Is it in writing?
Yeah, I don't believe it is, to be honest.
Well, if it was, it's on tissue paper either way.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying, like, it obviously just injects another round of uncertainty into an already uncertain market. And so it's the last thing that we really want to see. We'll be paying attention to what that looks like. Really when it comes down to it though, I'm just going to continue to watch physical grain movement more than anything. I want to see, how the market absorbs the uptick in movement that we saw out of southern Brazil this week in corn. And then when it's all said and done, as the combines begin to roll, I'll be looking more and more at those yield numbers, actual yield reports, and just seeing what the cash market does. So yeah, it'll be headline driven. And I haven't even mentioned, because the market doesn't care, but the Russia-Ukraine situation is escalating very,
Yes.
very
No,
much.
it is very much so.
You've seen Russia, block, or there's been a slowdown in loadings out of the Chernomorsk port, which is my favorite Ukrainian port, by the way, because it's fun to say.
Everyone
So
needs a
there are
favourite.
some, right? If you don't have one, what are you doing? But so there's been some disruptions to shipping there and some other things that we've been seeing. Right now it seems like the only focus on the Black Sea is talking about how big the Russian crop is, even though we're not necessarily seeing the flow of grain out of there that you would expect if it were that big. And so there's just a lot to be paying attention to there, especially as Russia starts to target further west into Ukraine. I will argue the biggest thing that kind of kept the war from negatively, or I say negatively influencing grains, which I mean negatively influencing supply and obviously being bullish to price, was that you were able to kind of continue your life as usual in 2/3 of Ukraine for the most part, throughout the bulk of the aggression.
Right.
Now you're seeing Russia really target areas that they hadn't targeted prior, and you're beginning to see more in the way of a disruption of everyday life. And so we've got to watch and see how that plays out. That situation's very far from being resolved, even if the grain markets aren't paying attention to it. And that'll have a huge influence on grain flow and all of that stuff.
Awesome. Absolutely epic, as always, my very, very dear friend. Angie, thank you so much, as always. Listeners, thank you again, as always. We really, really do appreciate you tuning in, especially those of you that are listening live, because it shows that you make an effort to listen when we're speaking. And there you go. Whatever you're doing today, keep it tight, stay safe, and we look forward to hearing from Angie for the last time in the week tomorrow. Much love.
Holy crap, it's Friday.
Oh,
All right,
crap.
you guys have a good one.